In order to provide as much value as possible to our members, associate members, and guests, we make a very strong effort to understand key cases which may have HR and workplace relations implications that in turn may impact our clients' businesses. The 4th of November marked the first day of another Supreme Court case against the New South Wales Health Minister challenging the reasonableness of the New South Wales Health Orders, this time in the healthcare industry. While some aspects of the case are unique to health workers, our view is that some of the questions asked by the plaintiff of the Chief Health Officer, Dr. Kerry Chant, poses some interesting HR and workplace relations considerations for businesses that are considering implementing mandatory workplace vaccinations. Lata versus Hazard differs from previous cases before the Supreme Court, as it is not disputed that termination of employment would be the result for all health workers who are conscientious objectors to COVID-19 vaccinations. Due to the current lack of unfair dismissal precedent in this space to provide direction, this immediately caught our attention. Dr. Chant was asked what percentage of fully vaccinated health workers would no longer constitute a public health crisis, noting that more than 90% of New South Wales health workers are currently double vaccinated. Dr. Chant was not drawn to provide an answer to this question. However, for the broader business community, this creates an interesting thought. At what vaccination rate within your workplace have you fulfilled your obligation to provide a safe workplace for your employees? The healthcare industry, by mandating the vaccine, their answer is 100%. But does your business contain the same level of risk as the healthcare industry? When being questioned regarding the reasonableness of the mandatory vaccination order, Dr. Chant acknowledged that by their very nature, the health orders were in fact temporary. The plaintiff questioned Dr. Chant if, when providing the advice regarding the health orders, she considered that the consequence of the order being termination was permanent against a temporary response to the health crisis. In other words, it was suggested that the health crisis is not going to be around forever, but once a person is terminated, they're very unlikely to return to the industry. In terms of considering a mandatory workplace vaccination policy, you need to consider, are you making a long-term policy decision in order to solve a short-term health problem? Dr. Chant was then taken in cross-examination to the New South Wales health policies regarding other vaccine-treatable diseases. The point was made that the policies set out different categories of employees based on their perceived risk of contracting or transmitting the disease. For example, distinctions were made between employees who interacted with patients and those that did not. The question was asked why this was different in relation to the health orders, which impact all health services employees, regardless if they interacted with patients or not. Now, Dr. Chant made the assertion that, for example, administrative employees would have interaction with other health workers who would then, in turn, have interactions with patients. Therefore, the blanket industry mandate was justified. Now, for the broader business community, this line of questioning brings into consideration if blanket business-wide mandates will indeed be found reasonable. Consider the different facets of your business. Do they all bring with them the same level of risk to employees and your clients? Does an employee working from home 3 days a week have the same COVID risk profile as a nurse working in a COVID ward? The point being is that not all businesses and not all employees are the same. Therefore, a blanket approach may not be reasonable. Although there is much more to consider on day one of the hearing, not all of it applies to the broader business community. and some of it is unique to health workers engaged by New South Wales Health, so we won't go into them in detail. But again, we share this with you not to advocate for one position or another, but rather to take you behind the scenes to some of the questions and considerations we're taking on board when considering the vexed topic of mandatory workplace vaccinations. We seek to give you a balanced view, to have the discussions that are needed to be had but are not being covered by many, to empower you to make informed decisions for your business moving forward. We welcome any comments or thoughts, regardless if you strongly agree or disagree with some of the questions that we're asking. So thanks very much for watching all the way to the end, and very much looking forward to seeing you all in the next update.